This week on Talking Pictures with Neil Rosen, we'll look at the new sci-fi drama After Yang starring Colin Farrell, the satirical horror thriller Fresh with Daisy Edgar-Jones and Sebastian Stan, the latest animated tale from Pixar called Turning Red, and a new documentary, Lucy and Desi, about the lives, careers, and struggles of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. We've got all that and many more movie picks coming up. Hey everybody, I'm Neil Rosen and welcome to Talking Pictures. It's our monthly Critic Roundtable show where we debate what's worth watching and what's not when it comes to new releases, hidden gems, and Hollywood classics. Joining me are Bill McCuddy from Gold Derby. Hey there, Bill.
Hi, welcome to Talking Pictures, the Grumpy Old Men edition.
Bill Brigoli is here from WSYR and our podcast, Sitting Around Talking Movies. And returning to the show, our pal David Fear from Rolling Stone magazine. How you doing, man? Let's start out with a look at several new films in theaters and or streaming, beginning with a new movie called Fresh. Let's take a look at a clip.
I don't know how you do it, Molly. Do it. Dating people. No. You do not need a man, okay?
So don't play the games. Just be you, straight out the gate.
Do you live around here? Because I live on aisle 6. Oh, it's terrible.
Was kind of terrible.
What's his Instagram? I want to stalk a little bit.
Doesn't have one.
Say what?
Yeah.
Oh, no. See, that's shady.
Let's play a game. Tell me something you don't want me to know.
I hate this.
Okay.
Bill Brigoli, hey man,
Hey.
tell us about Fresh.
Well, it stars Daisy Edgar-Jones from Normal People. I know you're a big fan of her.
I love Normal People. See Normal People, everybody.
All right. Well, she plays Noah, a lovely young lady who's having difficulty dating. She goes out with all these schlubs in the beginning of the movie, and it's typical rom-com. And then she meets Sebastian Stan. He's a charming young doctor. They meet in, of all places, the supermarket.
Straight out the gate.
And you should note, she's standing in front of a sign that says fresh meat. Just file that away in your brain. Anyway, they hit it off wonderfully. They go on a date, and then one time during a date, she falls asleep. Cut to the next morning, she's been drugged and she's tied up. And the credits roll and you realize, I'm watching a horror movie.
Yeah, the credits are like 30 minutes into the movie. The title credits don't come up till 30 minutes into the movie.
Right. It's darkly funny. I mean, it's, and the first film from the director, a woman named Mimi Cave. It's fun to watch all this crazy stuff go down, and I'm not going to say much more about it because you don't want to give too much away. That's it, guys, watch it.
Yeah, well, the much more we do need to say, let me just jump in here, is that this is really, really over the top in terms of the violence and what is served up by Sebastian Stan, who I think is a great actor. I just want to warn people, I think it's a cool ride and I'm recommending it, but it is not for everyone.
Yeah, I would say we have a leg up on people in that we know sort of what the reveal is. I will say this, I'm going to ask for a moratorium on psychotic men dancing jauntily to 80s pop tunes. I think we've had enough of that, frankly. There's a scene in here where that happens, and I feel like that's kind of jumping the shark finally with that little trope. And I will say that if a man seems too good to be true, he probably is too good to be true.
Listen, I thought this was fun. I mean, what the director Mimi Cave has done here is she's taken a tradition. First, as you said, Brigoli, the first 30 minutes is like a traditional rom-com, then it becomes this horror film, but she's taken these horror film tropes and kind of turned them upside down and made kind of a satire on it. And in the process, it's also scary. I mean, Sebastian Stan is funny, charming, demented, and creepy all at once. And, you know, the movie is warped, scary, and fun. And it's funny. I mean, it's funny and it's scary. That's a difficult, tightrope to walk.
Would you say it's deliciously funny?
Finger licking good. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Next up is a new documentary called Lucy and Desi. Bill McCuddy.
Well, Amy Poehler, who directs here, is a woman starring on television, and so I expected a little bit more depth in this otherwise outstanding documentary, which takes some new audio that hasn't been, or we didn't know about before, and pairs it up nicely with some footage that you may or may not have seen before. What I find most interesting about this, besides the talking heads and the fact that the Lucille Ball's family and Lucy Arnaz is on board and everybody seems to be playing nice about this, is that it looks a lot like Being the Ricardos. In other words, it looks like Aaron Sorkin watched this before he made his movie. You know, I'm a huge fan of that movie, and I know I want to get into that argument because this is a fine,
And you know I don't like that.
this is a fine documentary. But if you know a lot of this Lucy stuff, it will be familiar territory.
David?
Yeah, I kind of wish it was a little bit of a deeper dive. I will say it is a nice compliment to Being the Ricardos, which is not a film that I'm a fan of either. But it does fill in a lot of the gaps with that, and it gives you a really good sense of their relationship. I just wish there was a little bit more to it.
Rigoli?
I like the editing quite a bit. A guy named Robert Martinez put it together, and whenever they talk about a certain thing, there's a clip that brings that point right to you.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, so they pair up the footage with some of these recordings, and that's interesting. And we do hear from Norman Lear, and we also get Bette Midler and Carol Burnett. But it's all saying they love Lucy, but it's a lot of stuff we've heard before.
Listen, I'm a big fan of I Love Lucy. I know a lot of this stuff, and the problem with me with Being the Ricardos is I knew a lot of this stuff, but it wasn't funny. They didn't present Lucy as funny. This, they show clips from I Love Lucy, and it's very entertaining. Look, I learned some stuff here, too. I mean, Lucy and Desi, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz,
Were married?
She came from nothing, you know, and he was this, you know, she was poor and she became this on the #1 show on television, and he was this rich kid in Cuba, and the family got exiled from Cuba, came to America, didn't even speak any English, and wound up running, you know, one of the biggest movie studios in Hollywood. I think all these uncovered audio tapes that they found that haven't been heard ever, they were Lucy and Desi tell their story, is very interesting. And look, I Love Lucy, they're presented as this idyllic couple of the Ricardos on television.
Yeah, but we know that wasn't
Yeah,
true.
but
That's been
it's a rocky
asked
romance.
and answered over and over again. I mean, the really interesting thing is that Lucille Ball apparently isn't that funny off camera. It was only on camera when she became the comedienne, and that's the interesting vein that Poehler doesn't explore here.
Look, I think it's a treasure trove of material, and I think the ending where she's getting the Kennedy Center honor right after Desi dies, and Robert Stack reads this letter that Desi wrote to Lucy, and it's a love letter where he goes, "It's I love Lucy. It's more than just a title." I mean, that was like heartbreak. I mean, it was moving. I think Amy Poehler, who obviously has a comedy background and Lucy meant something to her, knows what she's doing with this, and she's great. I loved it.
No matter what you've done, I forgive you.
Moving on, let's talk about an unusual movie. It's called After Yang. David.
Yes, so in the future, we're not going to get jetpacks, Neil, but we are going to get androids, and they're going to be about as common as iPhones. Colin Farrell, in a role you can actually recognize him in, and Jodie Turner-Smith are a married couple who have bought one of these androids. It's sort of like an sibling. They essentially are like these older brothers or sisters for small adopted kids, and theirs is called Yang. He eventually breaks down, as all technology must, and rather than try and just return him to the manufacturer, they actually start digging into his memory banks. Now, this is one of those films. It's the second film directed by a Korean visual essayist, artist, filmmaker named Kogonada. It looks beautiful. It looks too beautiful at points, to the point where you actually think like you're flipping through a catalog, or it's like hipster decor porn. And then it gets to the third act, where you actually start to get into the memory of this android, and you realize it starts asking these questions that science fiction asks so beautifully. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to connect? What does it mean to have a soul? Do androids dream of electric sheep? I mean, really beautiful stuff here. It really kind of turns itself around.
Rigoli?
Well, I had trouble connecting with this emotionally because I don't own a Technosapien. I guess that's what they call it.
That he talks about.
Yeah.
But do you have memories? I mean, that's the beauty of it.
yeah.
It's like the way it talks about the small details that you hold on to that have such significance to me feels so emotionally overwhelming that it starts to push everything else aside.
That I like, but the director shot a lot of stuff in long shots with people talking. There were dialogue scenes where they were like 50 feet away. So.
Well, that wasn't so much the problem I had. The idea is fascinating to me of looking into the memories, and they have it presented as though something ominous is going to happen, and that shoe or that electronic foot never drops. I mean, there are so many unanswered questions in this thing. I appreciate what you liked about it, and I think it is beautiful to look at, but ultimately it's a head scratcher for me.
I'm mixed on it. I hear what you're saying also. I mean, the movie offers up a lot of food for thought about, like you said, what it means to be human and memories and all that stuff.
And there's grass in the back of our cars in the future.
But you have to
Growing.
get it. It's so slow-paced, and the music is so slow also to match that. You have to kind of get into the headspace of the filmmaker to, you know, to kind of appreciate this. And if you're willing to do that, I think there are merits in the film, and I think that you'll be rewarded. But I'm saying that it was kind of hard to get there for me. I don't dislike the film. I don't love the film. I think it's okay. Turning Red is the name of the latest animated tale from the folks at Pixar. Let's take a look at a clip.
May, what the heck happened?
It's just some, inconvenient, genetic thingy I got from my mom. I mean, it'll go away. Eventually. Maybe.
May.
I hate this. I'm slobby, I'm smelly. My mom won't even look at me.
David, tell us about Turning Red.
Yeah, it follows this young Chinese-Canadian tween in the early part of the 2000s. Her name is Mai Lin. She's just your average go-getter. She's an A-type personality, runs around middle school. She's got a bunch of friends. Everything seems perfectly normal. And then all of a sudden, one day, she finds that she turns into this giant red panda whenever she gets angry or overexcited. Turns out that this is actually her family's ancestral animal spirit that has guarded them for centuries. If you also think it's a metaphor for puberty, you might be onto something here. I will say that this is the first feature film from Pixar to be directed solely by a woman. Her name is Domi Shi. She did one of my favorite Pixar shorts a couple of years ago called Bao. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's wonderful, it's charming, it's funny, it's incredibly universal, and it is just really, really beautifully done.
Okay, checks a lot of boxes. It's really funny. The music is great. It's Pixar. You can't go too wrong. And the idea here of basically taking Inside Out and Soul and kind of taking some of those things and putting it in a Cuisinart with this storyline, I think has worked for them. I just wonder when Pixar's going to run out of stuff to do. They haven't yet. This is a good film. See it. You'll enjoy it. But what's up next, guys?
Bergoli?
I thought the scenes with the girls, all the friends, were incredibly charming, but why does every movie have to have a climactic, huge battle scene at the end where in this they're tearing up a stadium?
So there's a thing called Hollywood. How long do we have?
The boy band is funny. The boy band is really funny.
Yeah.
There are 5 of them, and they're called Some Country for
Billie Town, I
My
believe,
brother
right?
wrote the songs for the boy band.
Yeah, that's right.
Listen, there's a lot going on in this movie, and it's a really strange
Did you have a hard time following it, Neil?
No, it's just a very strange movie. I mean, you got a girl turning into a panda when she gets emotional, which, as David pointed out, is a metaphor for something else. You've got this boy band thing, which is kind of like a BTS thing, where there's all these ideas that are going on in the movie. It's fine. I just don't think it's up to par with, Pixar movies used to be events. I mean, it's not on the same level as like Ratatouille or WALL-E or Up or the Toy Story movies. It's fine, but this is more like a DreamWorks animation movie to me. It's not like the best movie of the year kind of Pixar things that they used to have. It's okay. It's just a lot of stuff, and I don't know if the movie, Pixar movies usually work on 2 levels, the early ones, one for adults and one for kids. I think this is strictly for kids, and I think the audience here, which is 13-year-olds, I don't know if they're going to, 14, 15-year-olds, I don't know if they're going to gravitate to a movie like this. It's fine.
They will, trust me.
You think so?
Yeah, definitely.
You guys all have daughters. Would you enjoy watching this with your daughters?
I'd have no problem watching this with my daughter, but she's 27.
Yeah.
All right. If they were
So that's a
13,
little
Yeah, the
weird.
question is whether my daughter has a problem watching it with me.
By the way, this is a 4 old guy panel this week on the show. It's too bad Lisa Rossman or Perry Nemiroff or Justine Browning aren't here, because a female perspective would be much needed in this particular.
Yeah, where is Lisa Rossman when you need her? I would have loved for her to weigh in on this.
Bill Bergoli, let's talk about the movie Gold.
It stars Zac Efron as a drifter in a post-apocalyptic world. Now, he's supposed to go someplace called The Compound, and he gets a ride from someone played by Anthony Hayes, who also co-wrote and directed the film. Neither one of these characters has a name. I went and looked it up. It's Man 1 and Man 2. That's all you've got to go on. And there's not much else. But on the way to The Compound, they find a huge gold nugget, bigger than this coffee table. And the other guy, Anthony Hayes' character, runs off to get an excavator, leaving poor Zac Efron alone in the desert. And boy, does he suffer. There's everything from scorpions, extreme heat, and apparently radiation, because his face gets all pocked up and that sort of thing. So no more pretty boy Zac Efron. And if there's a point to this film, it's that it's a dog-eat-dog world. And just to make sure that you know that, They have a scene where a dog eats another dog.
Mr. Fear.
I mean, Neil, if you know anything about me, you know that I love three things. I love survivalist movies, I love dystopian, post-apocalyptic movies, and I love movies where very handsome actors try to look as dirty and ugly as possible. So this really checks all the boxes for me. I like the idea of trying to remake some sort of post-nuclear war Treasure of the Sierra Madre, but
Yeah,
I think I like
there's
it better in conception than execution here.
Yeah, there's Treasure Sierra Madre influence over this movie, but nowhere near as good. I'll chime in later. McCuddy, go ahead.
This isn't a film, it's a blister. This is just looking at a guy out who desperately needs SPF 80 on and just gets more cooked and more cooked and more cooked. I get the attraction for somebody like Zac Efron, but buddy, stay in your lane. When he does funny flat better than almost anybody out there, including Paul Rudd. I'm putting him in a category with early Bill Murray. Stay in those movies. Do not need to move.
Yeah, you hear this actors do one thing.
Look, the movie demonstrates that Zac Efron could act, but beyond that, there are, as Brigoli said, long stretches in this film where he's just stuck in the desert for like an hour with practically no dialogue. Let's build a shelter with parts of an old plane that crashed. Let's deal with harsh windstorms, and it's boring. It's very tedious.
We haven't mentioned that a woman shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
who
the
very
Irish
no
accent.
explanation of.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't know. There's no character development or backstory. There is a twist at the end, which you kind of see coming, but it's just too far to go to get to that ending, and I would pass on that.
This is fool's gold.
But David Fear really liked the movie. Okay, well, to each his own, my friend. Switching gears somewhat, switching centuries. We were in the future, now we're going to go in the past. Tell me about Mothering Sunday, Bill McCuddy.
Well, if you've always watched Downton Abbey and said, why isn't there more sex? This is your movie. We have Odessa Young is a maid in an English countryside in 1924. She's in love with the boy from the manor-born Josh O'Connor. You know him as Prince Charles in The Crown. Theirs, alas, is a forbidden love. We've seen all of this before, but tune in for a supporting cast of newcomers, including Glenda Jackson, Colin Firth, and Olivia Colman. All of this could have been a better movie than it is, but it's not bad, and it's sort of...
well, I think it's terrible, but
it's English polite country light, and for that reason, I'm going to recommend it.
Polite English nudity as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of
that.
nudity in this.
Is it a metaphor for innocence or something? I was trying to figure that. It kept my attention because there's a lot of timelines that you have to navigate through this film. It takes place.
Right, it is in 3 time places.
Yeah.
And it is several films as well. It keeps going back to the fact that this young woman who's having this affair, this servant who's having an affair with the master of the house, later becomes a writer, and she's having this kind of creative coming-of-age film, which doesn't really work with the period stuff. It really feels like everything's kind of disconnected. I will say, though, that the filmmaker, a woman named Eva Husson, I believe she's French, does a really great job of kind of channeling female desire through all this stuff. There's lots of close-ups and these beautifully wrought sex scenes, but in the end, it just becomes kind of exhaustive.
I mean, this whole thing could have been boiled down to like a 20-minute thing. I mean, 2 people in the early 1920 or something in Britain. She's a maid. He's upper crust neighbor, and they have this affair, but they can't be together because they're in different social classes. And that's the whole thing. I mean, I told you that I thought Gold went on for long stretches and was boring. This makes Gold look exciting.
No.
This is like watching
this is a better
paint
movie
dry.
than Gold. No, this is a better movie than Gold.
I like how you're like, it's a romance just between people who are in one class strata and another, and they can't, and that's it. As if that's nothing.
I wasn't
Romeo and Juliet, West Side Story.
She walks around the house naked for like a half an hour looking at paintings.
She wants to see how the other half lives.
It's just so boring. I wasn't involved in any of the characters. The 2 main leads have no chemistry whatsoever. And Colin Firth and Olivia Colman are completely wasted in the film. I was bored to tears. I really was.
You know, the point we're missing about the film is that it's about grief. This takes place right after World War I. Some of these families have lost, 2 or 3 sons, and which explains why Olivia Colman's in a bad mood for like 90% of the movie.
Boring.
Do you remember me? You don't, do you?
No, I'm so sorry, I don't.
You don't know Simon?
I'm getting out of here. Wanna come with me?
How's that possible?
I don't remember who I am.
Are you Alina Reynolds by any chance? Yes. I'm a big fan of your work.
Or where I'm supposed to go. My memories begin with me walking among all these people.
That was a clip from the movie Italian Studies. It happens to be David Fear's personal choice as we go around the panel with our Critics' Picks of the Month. David.
Yes, straight from the movies that will inevitably confuse Neil department. A character study from a local filmmaker, a New York filmmaker named Adam Leone. Starts with Vanessa Kirby, who plays this middle-class woman walking her dog, goes into a hardware store, and then suddenly goes into this complete disassociative state. She has amnesia, she can't remember who she is, and she essentially spends the rest of the film kind of wandering around New York trying to remember what her identity was. I know it sounds boring, it's absolutely stunning. The way he puts you, Adam Leone puts you in this disassociative state with her, I think is absolutely fascinating.
Not a lot of structure here, but it's an interesting amnesia premise. I'm wondering if thematically with the After Yang memory thing, if that was a coincidence, David, that you picked this particular movie?
I forget.
Tear them apart. We got to look at
I think the New York locale is good, and amnesia premises have been done before, and I think this is an interesting way in.
Vanessa Kirby is definitely a woman to watch out for as well. I mean, she's been in a couple of big things already, but I think she's going to be like huge.
And she's wonderful in this, yeah.
Hey, Bill McCuddy, what's your pick this month?
Okay, this is only aimed at the few people who still haven't seen, the people on the fence who haven't seen No Time to Die, the James Bond film that kind of finished out the Daniel Craig years. This is the best, by the way, don't listen to the haters. If you haven't seen it, I just want you to know, it's filled with all kinds of great Easter eggs. It goes back in time to some of the earlier films. It makes, yes, a horrific mistake at the end that you either know about and have heard, or it's been talked to death, or it doesn't, but that doesn't matter. What happens before that is we got Rami Malek as one of the best Bond characters as a villain in a Craig movie, next to probably Javier Bardem. And as I mentioned, all these little scenes that are gifts, really, to all the Bond fans. This is a license to thrill.
Did you like it, Brigoli?
You could call it Takes Too Long to Die as well.
Come on.
But it was fun. It just took a while.
You know
is
how
2
I
hours.
watched it? I got to tell you, this is the tip on how to watch this. It's almost 3 hours. I watched an hour one night, I watched an hour another night, and then I watched the last hour the third night, and that was great. It became less draining and more entertaining.
Although there is a love story between a secret agent and a woman who's not quite on his level, so I'm surprised that you enjoyed that part of it.
David, did you like the?
I mean, I'm going to get smacked in the face by the ghost of Sean Connery for saying this, but Daniel Craig is my favorite Bond, and I think it's a really good exit for his kind of tenure as that character.
Hey, it's everything you want in a Bond film. Great locales, great action. Ana de Armas was terrific. Cool gadgets.
That Havana segment is a little clunky. Inside the bar, it's great. When it gets outside and everything starts crashing and everything, it looks like it's a mad, mad, mad world. But other than that, I like the film.
What'd you pick, Bill Bergoli?
It's called Topside. It's another New York movie, and it's about a woman and her daughter who live in the New York City subways until they're forced to leave because the subways are being taken over by the city. So they go topside, and the world is really disorienting. They've been living underground all this time, particularly with a little girl. And it's a bit, there's not much of a plot here, to be honest, but it gets really intense thanks to the camera work and the acting. And at one point, the mother has to make sort of a Sophie's choice in the subway decision regarding her daughter, and it's really kind of gripping.
You know, it's interesting subject matter. It's a great directorial debut from Celine Held and Logan George. And Zahalia Farmer's, the 5-year-old kid, Little, is terrific. Interesting look at a world that a lot of us don't know existed.
Somebody did a great documentary about this like 10 years ago. I can't remember who it was, but
Dark Days?
Dark Days, yeah. It's this world that really does exist down there. So if you look at this and think, oh, this couldn't possibly happen, it does.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Dark Days, and in a way, this is one of those films I think that you actually admire more than you like. I love the fact that they made this film and they're actually kind of digging into this subculture, but I don't know, it just didn't do it for me.
My pick is a terrific new series that's streaming now called Single Drunk Female. Samantha, played brilliantly by Sophia Black-Delia, is an alcoholic whose drinking is so bad she loses her great job in New York and has to move back home with her mother, played by Ali Sheedy. Remember her? In Massachusetts. It's a 10-episode first season, with each episode being only 20 minutes. The first episode, she's a drunken mess, showing up to work wasted, assaulting her boss, hooking up with strangers. The list goes on and on. But the remaining 9 episodes deal with her sobriety struggles as she goes to AA meetings, tries hard to avoid plenty of triggers in her old hometown, and takes a low-paying job working at a local grocery store. In the process, she tries to become a better friend and daughter. The twist here is this is a dark, satirical comedy, and it's played for as many laughs as it is for dramatic moments. The storylines, performances, and overall look at her struggles at doing so many routine things in her life without drinking are spot on. Series creator Simone Finch makes you root for the main character and feel her pain while surprisingly make you laugh along the way. It's a difficult balancing act to pull off, but she does it well and makes the whole thing extremely palatable.
Well, I never agree with you normally, but this thing really is funny
thanks.
and good.
Thanks,
I mean,
Bill.
it has a feel of like a Judd Apatow kind of an HBO series. It's that well thought out, put together. The performances are all really good. This was actually something that you, Rigoli, recommended on our podcast, and I was skeptical at first because it sounded like everything else I've seen out there, but this woman is going to be a real star.
I like me a female protagonist, let me tell you. That's why I like this show. She's really good. I only have one minor quibble, if we're going to bring up something negative. It supposedly takes place in Boston. It was shot in Georgia, and I can tell.
Well, you're a Bostonian.
That's right.
Neil, for the record, I do remember Ali Sheedy.
And for the record, she's a little underused in this.
You're right about the Judd Apatow thing because there's a lot of similarities with this character, the way Judd Apatow mined laughs from Gillian Jacobs in the TV series Love, who also went through like alcohol and drug problems. So actually, good point.
Well, Simone Finch, the writer, director, showrunner of this, was a showrunner on Veep and had a problem with alcoholism herself. So a lot of this is based on her own troubles.
What? Thought you could have one glass of wine.
No, I can't. Unfortunately, that's not how it works.
Well, I highly recommend Single Drunk Female, and that's about all the time that we have. I want to thank my guests, Bill Brigoli, Bill McCuddy, David Fear. I'm Neil Rosen. Join us next time on Talking Pictures.